The smell of engine oil lingered in the air as the afternoon sun poured through the garage's open door, striking the worn-out tools scattered across the concrete floor. Owen Hart wiped the sweat off his forehead with the back of his hand and looked at the old car he had been working on for the past 3 hours. The customer had begged him to fix it before the weekend, promising to pay him in installments. Owen said yes, not because he trusted the man, but because he understood desperation all too well. Life had been merciless since his wife Claire passed away 2 years ago, leaving him alone to raise his 7-year-old daughter Hazel. Every night, he lay awake thinking about how long he could keep up the repairs, the rent, and the daycare fees. But every morning, when Hazel smiled and hugged him before school, he found the strength to start again. Outside, the gravel driveway crunched under the wheels of a small blue sedan. Owen lifted his head. A young woman stepped out, tall, slender, with chestnut brown hair tied loosely in a ponytail. She wore a soft cream cardigan and carried a backpack that looked heavier than she did. She stood still for a moment, glancing around at the small, modest house that sat beside the garage. Her name was Aria Wynn, though Owen didn't know that behind that quiet, polite smile was the daughter of one of the wealthiest businessmen in the state. Before we go deeper into their story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of human connection, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal, because every story here is a reminder that hearts can heal in the most unexpected ways. Owen had placed a "room for rent" sign outside the week before. He hadn't expected much response. Their neighborhood wasn't near the fancy part of town, and his home wasn't much to look at. But Aria had found the listing online, drawn not by the price or location, but by something she couldn't explain. Maybe the quietness, maybe the feeling that she needed a place like this, far from everything her last name carried. She wanted to live like a normal person for once, without the weight of privilege defining her. She introduced herself simply as Aria, saying she was a college student looking for an affordable room while she completed her final semester. Owen studied her face carefully, searching for a hint of trouble. He couldn't afford anyone unreliable around Hazel. But there was something about her sincerity, the way she looked him in the eyes when she spoke, that convinced him. He nodded, showed her the small upstairs room, and by evening, Aria had moved in. Life settled into a quiet rhythm. Owen worked long hours at the garage, fixing cars and taking any side jobs he could find. Aria went to classes during the day and helped Hazel with her homework in the evenings. The two bonded instantly. Hazel adored Aria. She'd wait by the window for her to return, shouting her name when she spotted her walking down the road. Aria would laugh, kneel, and open her arms as Hazel ran into them. It was the kind of warmth Aria hadn't felt in years. Her father, Damien Wynn, was always too busy managing his empire to notice the silence that filled their mansion after her mother's death. Aria had grown up in luxury, surrounded by everything money could buy, except love. In this humble home, she felt it again. One Sunday morning, Owen found Aria and Hazel baking cookies in the kitchen. The smell filled the house, soft laughter echoing through the air. For a moment, Owen just stood there, leaning on the doorframe watching. Hazel's hands were covered in flour, and Aria's face had a streak of dough on her cheek. When Aria caught him watching, she smiled shyly and offered him a cookie. It was the first time in years he had felt something stir inside, not love exactly, but gratitude, peace, and something that scared him more than either. Days turned into weeks. The garage grew busier, but the bills didn't stop coming. One afternoon, a landlord notice arrived, a late payment warning. Owen's heart sank. He had tried to keep up, but between school expenses and groceries he was falling behind. He didn't tell Aria. Instead, he stayed up late, sitting at the small table with a calculator and old receipts, trying to figure out how to stretch what little he had. Aria noticed, though. She always did. One evening, while Owen was working late, Aria went into the garage quietly, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You've been here all day," she said softly, placing one beside him. He looked up, his eyes tired. "Yeah, just trying to keep things running." She hesitated, then asked gently, "Do you ever think about doing something else? Something easier?" Owen smiled faintly. "When you've got a little girl depending on you, there's no such thing as easy. You just do what you have to." Aria looked at him then, really looked, and realized that behind those rough, oil-stained hands and weary eyes was a man who had given everything for love. She had grown up surrounded by wealth, but she had never seen that kind of strength before. That night, she went to bed thinking about her own father and how differently he had lived. The next few weeks were hard. Hazel fell sick with a bad fever, forcing Owen to miss several days of work. The missed deadlines meant fewer customers, and the bills piled up again. Owen did his best to hide his worry, but Arya could see the strain in every movement he made. She tried to help quietly, cooking dinner, cleaning the garage, even slipping a few dollars into Hazel's school bag for snacks. Owen noticed but said nothing. Pride was the one thing he had left. Then one morning, everything fell apart. The landlord arrived red-faced and impatient. Owen's payment was late again. He begged for another week, but the man shook his head. "You've had enough chances, Owen. Pay up or move out." Hazel watched from the window as her father stood in silence, shoulders slumped. Arya saw it too, and something inside her broke. That evening, after Hazel went to bed, she sat Owen down at the table. "Please don't be angry," she began carefully, "but I can help. I have savings I can." Owen's voice rose, tired and defensive. "No, I can't take your money, Arya. You're just a student. I'll find a way." Tears welled in her eyes. "But you don't have to do everything alone. Let someone care for once." For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence between them carried more truth than words ever could. Then, quietly, she whispered, "You remind me of my mom. She always said love isn't about what you give, it's what you share." That night, Arya made a decision that would change everything. A few days later, a man in a black suit arrived at the garage asking for Owen Hart. Owen came out, confused. The man handed him a letter and left without a word. Inside was a property deed. The same house he was about to lose, now paid off in full. At the bottom there was a simple note, "For Hazel, so she never has to move again." Owen stared at the paper, disbelief flooding his face. Who could have done this? Later that day, Arya came home from class, her eyes red as if she'd been crying. He showed her the letter. She smiled faintly, tears spilling over again. "Sometimes," she said softly, "people who seem ordinary aren't who you think they are." It was then that Owen began to piece it together. Her quiet generosity, her composure, the occasional expensive phone she hid away, the way she talked about her family business. She wasn't just a struggling college girl. She was someone who had chosen simplicity over privilege. "Why?" he asked, barely above a whisper. She took a deep breath. "Because I wanted to know what life really feels like. My father's world is full of gold but empty of meaning. Here, I found something real. A father's love for his daughter, the warmth of a home, the strength to keep going even when everything falls apart. I wanted to be part of that." Owen's throat tightened. "You didn't have to save us?" Arya shook her head. "You already did. You reminded me what love looks like when it's earned, not bought." The days that followed were brighter. Hazel recovered, laughter returned to the house, and the fear that had lingered for months finally faded. Owen never asked for anything more, but the bond between them deepened in quiet, unspoken ways. Months later, on Hazel's 8th birthday, Arya invited a few friends from her college to the garage. She handed Hazel a small box wrapped in blue paper. Inside was a necklace, a tiny silver heart. Hazel's eyes sparkled. "It's beautiful! Thank you, Arya!" Owen watched them with pride, gratitude swelling inside him. When Arya caught his gaze, she smiled, a soft, knowing smile that spoke of everything they'd both been through. Sometimes, family isn't made by blood, but by hearts that find each other when they need it most. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal, where every story reminds us that love, sacrifice, and kindness still exist in this world. And before you go, take a moment to comment below. Kindness still matters. Because sometimes one act of kindness, just one, can change a life forever.